I now hand the conference over to Mr. Anshuman Deb from ICICI Securities Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Faizan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. ICICI Securities is delighted to host you in the Q2 FY21 results conference call of Angel Broking Limited. We have with us Mr. Dinesh Thakkar, Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Vinay Agarwal, Chief Executive Officer, and Mr. Vineet Agarwal, Chief Financial Officer. Without further ado, I will hand over the floor to the management for their initial remarks, post which we will open the floor for Q&A. Over to you, sir.
Sir, we are not able to hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I am Dinesh Thakkar, CMD Angel Broking Limited. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Angel Broking Limited, I extend a warm welcome to everyone for joining us on this media and earning call today. I hope you and your near ones are safe and healthy in these unprecedented times of COVID pandemic. Let me begin by thanking our shareholders for their response to our recent IPO. We continue to strengthen the brand equity of Angel Broking and strongly believe we have a huge opportunity moving forward. Since some of you may be hearing us for the first time today, let me give you a brief overview about Angel Broking, and then our team will walk you through operational and financial performance. Angel Broking is one of the largest digital retail broking houses in India. Over the last couple of years, we have focused on transforming ourselves into becoming a digital powerhouse of broking industry. We have invested our time and energy to transition from tech-savvy and physical grant-led model to completely digital player. We are today harnessing the benefit of digitization as we acquire customers across different tiers, cities, and gain market share exponentially across segments. We have overhauled all our processes right from sourcing and acquiring customers to servicing them digitally. One, we have a seamless and efficient account opening process wherein a customer can open an account and start to trade in less than 10 minutes. Two, more than 99% of the order placed by our direct clients are seamlessly executed online. Third, we proficiently use artificial intelligence and machine learning analytics to drive customer engagement and service activities. Fourth, our best-in-class products and services, including proprietary digital advisory services through our flagship product, ARQ, are only some testaments to our endeavor to become fully digital. We pioneered the concept of robo-advisory in India through a flagship product called ARQ. Our ARQ provides equity advisory service based on alpha generating algorithms that take into account multiple fundamental and quantitative factors. Our other product, Angel B, one of our new products, will be commercially launched over the next couple of quarters. Through this app, we intend to target clients who are eager to enter market through indirect investments. This app is recommended a suitable product for investors based on their risk appetite, and recommendation would be based on their financial goals. Using our digital properties successfully, we aim to become market leaders. Having already moved from a yield-based broking revenue model to a flat fee-based broking revenue model, today we charge 0 rupees for all delivery orders and a flat fee of rupees 20 per order for all other segments. The confluence of robust digital infrastructure and the best pricing model has accelerated our growth rate multifold across all parameters. As a result, we had close to 39% of our overall client being active as on September 2020, making us one of the few players outperforming industry on active client basis. As we move ahead, one, we plan to continue our focus on product innovation. Second, provide an open source platform. Third, integrate more third-party applications. Fourth, augment our artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities to provide better than before personalized digital experience to our clients. Fifth, engage with third-party provider to widen our product basket. Sixth, and finally, capitalize on the huge opportunity emanating from growing investable wealth in India. With this, I now invite our CEO, Vinay Agrawal, to take you through our operational performance.
Thank you, Dinesh bhai. Good morning to everyone present on our first earning call. Q2 FY21 has been a remarkable quarter for us as we continue a sustained and a high growth trajectory across all our business parameters. We witnessed first 59% growth in our new net client addition on quarter basis in Q2 FY21 to 5,40,000 new customers as compared to 3,40,000 additions in Q1 of this year. This addition to our client roster is not a 1 or a 2 quarter phenomena, but is something that we have witnessed and sustained for the last 18 months now. Majority of our customers acquired come from tier 3 and beyond cities. Since we have been targeting younger, mobile and tech-savvy customers, the average age of the customers acquired had steadily declined to 30 years now. The robust client addition translates in a 15.8% market share in incremental Demat accounts, which means that 1 in every 7 Demat accounts that are opened in India are with Angel. This sustained rate of client addition also helps us to expand our funnel on active clients. Due to this, our overall equity average daily turnover breached the rupees 1 lakh crore mark for the first time in our history on a quarterly basis. Our growth in ADTO over the last 18 months is 7 times faster than the industry. We have also gained market share across segments, cash, F&O and commodities. From Q1 FY20 to Q2 of FY21, our retail turnover based market share grew 3.6 times in F&O segment to 12.1% now. It grew 2.3 times in commodity segment to 28.4%. It grew 1.4 times in the cash segment to now 18.3% market share. And it grew 3.3 times in our overall retail equity segment to 12.3%. Using our artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities, we have been successful in activating more clients from our overall client pool. Our market share in NSE active clients has also steadily increased to 7.1% at the end of Q2 FY21, up from 4.4% in FY18. As Dinesh bhai mentioned, close to 39% of our overall active client base remains active as of September 2020. This is significantly higher than the industry average of 30.5%. As our client base expanded, so did our overall active client base. We continue to witness the benefits of digital model in our business, which is giving us operating leverage visible in our financial performance, which I will now request Vineet Agrawal, our CFO, to give you brief on.
Thank you, Vinay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I will take you through the financial snapshot for the quarter. As explained earlier, we achieved 59% sequential growth in our gross client additions, 107% sequential growth in our average daily turnover, 412 basis points expansion in our overall retail equity ADTO market share, and a strong quarterly average lending book of rupees 826 crores. This translated into a 29% sequential growth in our revenues to 318 crores, which is further bifurcated as gross broking income, which accounted for 70% of our revenues, interest income, which includes interest on our client funding book and fixed deposit interest, which accounted for 17%, depository income accounted for 7%, income from distribution of mutual funds and insurance products accounted for 1%, and others 5%. Our gross broking income is further split into brokerage earned from cash and F&O segment, each contributing about 45%, followed by commodity and currency at 10% and 1% respectively. After paying commission to our authorized persons, 70% of our net broking income was contributed by our direct clients and the balance by clients of our authorized persons. Since we transformed into a fully digital company, with majority of the transformation related cost already incurred over the last couple of years, we experienced benefit of operating leverage. As our top line grew, there was a less than proportionate increase in our cost. This is seen from a consistent expansion of our earnings before depreciation, amortization and tax (EBDAT) margin from 30% in quarter 2 of financial year 2020 to just over 49% in quarter 2 of financial year 2021. With no major depreciation related impact.
You see that shifting to F&O henceforth, given the upfront margin requirements and so on. So any comments on that firstly? Thank you.
Yeah, hi. So if you look at the upfront margin requirements, now it is applicable for both similarly, like cash segment and F&O. In both cases, you have to give upfront margins.
Yeah.
So there is now no difference. Earlier, there was an advantage in the cash segment where there was no regulatory requirement of giving upfront margins. Now that has also kind of been leveled. So now, if you ask me today for future and options as well as cash segment, the requirements, the margin requirements are absolutely the same. That's why we don't believe, we'll see a shift in the business from one segment to the other segment.
Right. So, and how do you see the impact of that? So I think in November sometime we will see another round of the phase-wise in terms of happening, in terms of margin restrictions. So how do you see the impact on cash volumes, intraday volumes going forward?
So again, as I said, now there is no difference between cash and F&O, So there, I don't believe that there will be difference between cash and F&O going forward also. Secondly, I think there's this new regulations that are coming into place have been kind of been spelled out quite long back. So I believe most of the broking house and we are fully geared up to implement the new regulations. And as regards to the exchange volumes, if you look at the history, SEBI regularly has been coming out with new kind of regulations, time to time, and this has only helped more retail participation. This has only helped the overall exchange volumes to grow because it brings more transparency and more safety to the customers.
Right, got it. And second is more on the competitive landscape in discount broking. So I think the latest launch has been by Paytm on discount. So wherein, especially on the pricing, they are a little bit in terms of more lenient versus players like us. So how do you see the evolving landscape in terms of discount broking, where even some of the other traditional brokers are also now morphing into discount broking? So how do you see this evolving, and what could be the impact that we might see on this going forward in terms of, would you at any point in time want to change your pricing of 20 rupees a trade, or you all are clear that you all will not want to be playing the pricing game and maybe look at other value adds and so on? So any comments on this? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I will request Dinesh Bhai to take this question, please.
Okay, thank you. Pricing has never been the only criteria of growing your business in terms of scale and size. In the broking industry particularly, you require a lot of domain knowledge, and using technology and just being a person into multiple businesses is not going to give you a sharp service what a customer requires. My experience is, already we have seen in the market, there were few players who came with 10 rupees of order or even somewhere near there. They were unable to achieve a scale and size. I believe that the kind of trust that people have on us and kind of service that we provide to users, that helps us to achieve a scale and size, which has helped us to achieve an operating levers that already we have built in. So now, I don't think pricing is a concern for us, but in fact, what is important is that one has to look at this market is going totally digital, and we are seeing a big growth on digital side. So given the size and scale that we have, I think we will be a major beneficiary if we get a digital player who will be able to expand the market. I see this as a complementing to our expanding market share.
Right. Got it. Right. And one final question in terms of, given the traction on new customer acquisition has been very good for us, is there any particular aspirational market share number that we are looking at, say, 3 years down the line or something of that sort?
See, our aspirations are to become number one player in digital stockbroking. And when it comes to digital players, I think top 4 or 5 would be having more than double-digit number. And we are already at number 4. And in terms of incremental clients for this H1, we are at number 3. So our aspiration is to target to be number 1 in broking industry.
Right. Got it. Great. Thank you, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jamil Ansari from Bajaj Allianz Life Insurance. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks, and good morning, everyone. I just wanted to check if you can break up the fee income line between direct brokerage income and the ones that is coming through the sub-brokers.
Hi, sorry, your voice was breaking. We couldn't hear you properly. Can you please repeat?
Of the total brokerage income, how much of that is coming directly and how much is towards sub-broker channel?
So, sir, I request Vineet to answer this question, please.
On a net brokerage basis, 70% of our income comes from direct clients and 30% comes from through our authorized persons.
Okay, but even the income through the authorized persons is reported in the revenue line, right? And then the payout is in the expenses?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get that question. Can you please repeat it?
Yeah, I was saying that the income from the authorized persons is booked in the revenue line and then their payout is there in the expenses, right? That's the way you account it, or only the net is booked?
No. The income is booked in the income line and the expenses are part of the expenses. The payout is part of the expense.
Okay, so the 92 crores in the expenses line is what you would have paid out to the sub-brokers?
Yes.
Okay. And secondly, in terms of our customer acquisition cost, how is that running at this point of time?
So, I mean, if you see, we have been able to really create a very strong digital platform for ourselves, and that's why, we are able to really control our customer acquisition cost, So, I mean, we have been able to really fairly kind of maintain it at a good level, which makes us very, very profitable. And we are able to really expand our customer base, as you have seen from our numbers, at a decent price.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's fair, Vinay, but the sheer, control on the cost line seems just too good. So, for example, if you are now acquiring around 5.4 lakh customers in a quarter.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. The audio is breaking from your line, sir. Can you please check, please?
Hello, is it better now?
Now it is better. Please go ahead.
Okay. So basically, even when our customer acquisition has gone up some 2-3x on a YOY period, our employee costs is broadly flat. So is that possible that you are acquiring customers without incurring any employee cost?
See, as I was repeating, we have become a fully digital organization. Correct? So, in fact, we have practically closed all our B2C branch offices. So, completely, our whole digital acquisition, all of our acquisition is happening digitally, 100% digitally for our direct clients. That's why you will see not a big, change in the employee cost as we are growing our, customer acquisition numbers. We have become a fully digital, sir. So, as we have become fully digital, all our clients, we acquire them through digital methods.
Okay. And one more thing, given that now most of our revenues are linked to number of orders rather than the actual turnover in rupees crores, shouldn't we also start reporting in terms of yield per order on a quarterly basis? I think that will be more reflective of the actual performance.
Yeah, I take your suggestion, sir. Currently, we charge, it's very, very straight. We charge 0 rupees for delivery-based order, and we charge 20 rupees for all other orders. So it's
Right.
really as simple as that.
So, Vinay, there is no change in the yields, right? There is no movement in the yields on a per order basis.
Yeah. There's nothing to really, look at it because
Okay.
it's so simple and straight.
Okay. And finally, on the dividend side, you have announced a dividend of 4.15 this time. But overall, what is the policy like? What kind of payout are you looking at?
Okay.
Payout ratio?
Yeah, sir. Yeah, have you completed your question?
Yeah.
I will request Dinesh bhai to answer this question, please. See, being into digital business and being into business which is asset light, I think with our strong operating levers and sustainable growth, we will be able to maintain this dividend payout. So because we don't require huge cash flow to maintain our business expansion. So growth will be there, but in terms of requirement of capital, I think we are fairly capitalized now to take care of this and maintain this dividend payout.
So one should expect a 60-70% payout at least.
Sorry, can you just repeat?
So should one expect a 60-70% payout in the form of dividend?
No, that we will see as per our business growth. It is after a few quarters that we will take a final call on what is the cash requirement for business growth. But what I am saying is that to maintain this payout, what we have announced, it is possible.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants in the conference, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have a follow-up question, we would request you to rejoin the question queue. The next question is from the line of Nidesh Jain from Investec Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, sir, and congratulations for a great set of numbers for the quarter. As a first on the operating expenses, how should we think about operating expenses going forward? Given that you mentioned that you may not require you will not be incurring operating expenses to acquire these set of clients. So going forward, should we expect that operating expenses will remain broadly flat?
Thank you for the question. So since we are a fully digital organization, you will not see a significant increase in our cost compared to the growth in the customer base or revenue, because now, bulk of all our customers trade with us digitally. So you will see a much smaller increment in our cost compared to the growth in the revenue and the customer base. The only cost which will grow in proportion to the customer acquisition would be the customer acquisition cost.
Sure. And so what is if you can give some data around admin and other expenses, what was the contribution of advertisement and IT in this quarter?
Nidesh, sorry, we couldn't hear that question properly.
Can you share the operating expenses related to advertisement as well as information technology for the quarter?
Hi, as we have become a complete digital organization, we have moved away from the traditional advertising methods, So you will not see, our advertisement in the traditional methods, which is like more around TVs and, outdoors, So bulk of our now advertisement would be on the digital side, and that is counted primarily as a part of the cost of acquisition. So you will not necessarily see now, decent amount of increment in terms of our advertisement cost. That cost is more or less stable now. Regards to your IT and technology cost, so we have a fairly large amount of team working on the digital side. So I can tell you the number of seniors. So we have more than 250 plus senior employees who are working on the technology and the digital and product side to create products which gives better customer experience.
Sure. And lastly, sir, can you share some details on ARQ platform? What percentage of customers?
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. The audio is breaking from your line, sir. Please check.
Hello, is it better?
Yeah, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah. So, can you share some details on the ARQ platform and mutual fund AUM? How is the traction there? What percentage of customers or what number of customers are subscribing to these products? And what is the AUM, mutual fund AUM outstanding as of September 20?
I don't have the readily data of the number of customers, but what I can tell you is lot of customers use this as the stepping stone to enter into the stock market. So what we find is lot of customers, when they open an account with us and where they need guidance, they use this as a channel, to understand the markets, to decide, which stocks to invest in, and then, they enter the market, and then thereon, as they learn it, they then use various channels or their own research, to decide where to invest and how to invest. Regarding your second question about the mutual fund AUM, I don't have the latest number, but I believe, it was hovering at around 900 crores, a few days back.
Thank you. This is the operator. Mr. Jain, may we request that you return to the question queue for follow-up questions, as there are several participants waiting for their turn. Thank you. We'll take the next question from the line of Vikas Khemani from Carnelian Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, Dineshji. Hello, everyone. Congratulations on the great number. I actually wanted to get some sense on,
Mr. Khemani, the audio is not clear, sir, from your line. Please repeat your question.
Hello? Is it better?
No, sir. No, sir. It's still breaking.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. So congratulations, sir, on great set of numbers. And a couple of questions I had. One, can you give some sense on the trajectory of the client additions?
Sorry, we are not able to hear you. We are not able to hear you.
We are not able to hear you, sir, clearly.
Maybe you can put me in the question back. I can come back after a couple of times.
Sir, I would request you to please rejoin the conference.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll take the next question from the line of Kajal Gandhi from ICICI Direct. Please go ahead.
Hello, yes, sir. Congratulations on the good set of numbers. Sir, on the customer addition side, the number is quite substantial in Q2 versus Q1. So what is the color on the type of customers, and in terms of breakup, like how much must have a authorized channel contributed like?
Yeah. Hi, thanks for your question. So if you look at the socio-demographic breakup, a bulk of our customers, as I said, are coming from tier 3 cities. So close to 55% of our customers are coming from tier 3 cities. They are young in age, so most of them, the average age is around 30 years now. As regards to the breakup, out of the 540,000 customers that we have acquired in the quarter 2, 440,000 customers were acquired directly through our direct customer acquisition channel, and approximately 1 lakh customers were acquired through our authorized person.
In that acquisition model also you provide any commission, authorized channel?
In authorized channel, as we shared, we share the revenue with our business partners.
Okay. And second thing, on the rise in the F&O volume, quarter on quarter is very sharp. So what can be the reasons, or have we added any algo players in that?
Not really. So we are a very, very focused retail broking house. We don't do anything other than retail. So we have zero prop book, zero, institution or HNI book. Everything is purely retail. What you can see now, our market share in the cash segment is already at around 18%. So I believe that, F&O has to catch up, so at some point of time, because we are acquiring, and this market share is only of retail, so since we are acquiring large number of retail customers, eventually you will find that our market share across cash segment, F&O and commodities kind of, will merge towards a very, very similar number. Since it was low in the past, you are seeing a huge growth there.
One bookkeeping question. Quarter on quarter, other expenses have gone up 36 to 60
Sure. I will request Vineet to answer this question.
So we, as you know, we have increased our client addition from 340,000 odd to 540 in Q2, and bulk of this cost is attributable to this increase in the client base, in the client additions.
Thank you. This is the operator. Ms. Gandhi, may we request that you return to the question queue for follow-up questions. We'll take the next question from the line of Madhukar Ladha from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, congratulations on a great set of numbers. A couple of questions. One, just a follow-up to Kajal's question earlier. So, what are the exact expenses on client acquisition? Is it advertisement?
Mr.
Or, what do you...
Speaking, sir, from your line. This is the operator.
Hello, can you hear me clearly?
And now, sir, we can hear you a little bit clearly, yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to know what are the, what actually is the expense that you incur to acquire clients? What is the cost per added customer?
Hi, thank you for asking this question. But since this question is very relevant towards the competition, so it's a competitive data. That's why we don't really disclose this data.
Okay. Next question will be on so there have been a lot of changes in the upfront margining requirements by SEBI. So both on the cash side and F&O side, I think it will become applicable from 1st December of this year. So on the cash side, are we seeing lower volumes, and have we need a 20% upfront margin, so are we seeing an impact in intraday volumes? Also, are we what has happened to our BPST volumes? You could give us some color over there. And also, if you can tell us what percentage of the F&O turnover is intraday. So maybe you can give a separate answer for futures and a separate answer for options.
Yeah, hi. I mean, just to give you flavor of the cash segment, since the upfront margins were implemented from 1st September 2020, so you're right, there was a small dip in the cash segment volume in that particular month. But, if you look at the quarter-on-quarter numbers, so cash segment, I'm talking about the retail industry volumes, So if you look at the retail industry volumes, in cash segment in Q1, it was around 33,000 crores, which in the Q2 is around 37,900 crores, So you're absolutely right. From 1st September, we saw a small dip, which was around, if I'm not wrong, it was around 15 to 20% dip in the volumes. But, I believe, these are the kind of, regular ups and downs that happens in the industry, So our industry is not like, growth. You see a very, very consistent growth, So you see some months lower than the previous month. But I think industry has already adjusted and adopted this new method. We are not seeing any customer queries or complaints around this upfront margin. So we believe the whole retail industry has already kind of accepted this new norm, and our customers have got used to trading while giving the upfront margins. As regards to your second question about these laws, that regulations which are getting implemented, from the 1st of December, as I have answered previously, I believe that most of the industry is geared up for that implementation. At Angel Broking, we are fully geared up to implement those regulations. And as I shared earlier, we believe that SEBI has regularly been coming out with new regulations, transformation changes, which helps to improve the transparency and safety of the retail customers. And we have only seen over a period of time, that this has only helped for larger retail participation with higher volumes, So we believe that that's the state that we are going to see in future also.
So, but what is the contribution of intraday trading right now in your futures and options total volumes, if you can just share that?
I don't have a ready number for the future and options, but fairly decent amount of volumes happen as an intraday volumes.
Okay. Understood. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pranav Gupta from Aditya Birla Sun Life Insurance. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello.
Mr. Gupta, please go ahead with your question. Your line is in talk.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Good morning, and congratulations on a good set of numbers. Just a couple of questions, sir. Firstly, in terms of customer acquisition, the last few months have been, or the last 2 quarters have been very strong for us. Just wanted to understand that what is the sustainable long-term, kind